Welcome to the Innovators Insider Podcast. I'm Richard Doyle, the User Group guy, here as always with my friend and co-host, Mike LaFleche, the professor. Mike, how are you today? And what kind of a show do we have for our audience?
Yeah, very nice to be here again with you, Richard. And I think we have an interesting show for you. There's a new partner application that's been released to the App Store with all sorts of cool new capabilities for things that people have been asking us for. And lo and behold, we have a partner that has stepped up to the plate to deliver. And this partner is a longtime friend of the CAD community. This partner is been providing applications for engineers for many, many years. And I had the privilege of meeting him back in Oklahoma City when I was still a CAD manager. In between my time as a SolidWorks reseller and joining Onshape, I was a CAD manager for a couple of years. That's where I joke I lost all my hair, pulling it out, managing all the files and servers, and nothing against the CAD management, role. Just know what you're getting.
Yep, bless them all, right?
Yes.
Yep, I've had the pleasure of meeting our guest as well a couple of times at some very large conferences. Great guy, and he's got a great product.
Chris Vaught, welcome to the show of Flatter Files.
Yes, thank you for having me. Excited to talk data management today and kind of get into some details maybe of how we can help Onshape users.
Absolutely. I was really excited. I when I heard that your application was up on the store, it just kind of hit me out of nowhere. I'm like, yes, this is exactly what I was hoping. People would be able to see with your product, and we'll take a look at the product in a little bit. But I want to let everybody kind of get to know you a little bit. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about yourself, Chris. How what you do, and how you got into this crazy CAD world. I always like trying to figure out like why would anybody ever get it, right?
Well, I think I always wanted to be an entrepreneur, and I graduated. I became an engineer, and actually have a civil engineering undergrad. I don't typically advertise that a lot because I never actually worked as a civil engineer. You know how it is. You go to school thinking you're going to do one thing, and then life takes you down different paths. And so I went to work as a consultant, was in, working as an engineer, et cetera, and clearly did not like being a consultant for whatever reason. Went to work for a manufacturing company, and that's when I really started to get involved in the CAD world. There's a manufacturing company that had product responsibility. We had a shop floor, the whole thing. It was a very small company. And so as an engineer, I was very hands-on on the CAD side. I would do CAD work myself pretty regularly. I would work closely with them. And that's where the idea around Flatter Files came about, is just working in industry and saying, I need this feature, I need that feature. How am I going to do that? The only way to do that is to build way more than to just do that, right? You couldn't just fix that. You needed a platform to do that. And so, at the time, this was probably 2010 when I started thinking through this process. And then in March of 2011, I quit my job. And started writing code on the next day. Literally I did not write a line of code until I was no longer employed. And I knew I wanted to do this. I didn't know exactly what it was going to be. And it really wasn't until I got into the community and the idea behind Flatter Files over that first year, all of that 2011, had 0 customers, didn't even have a product developed yet, but started to get involved in the community and doing more product research, I guess you could say. And then that's where Flatter Files came about.
Sweet. And so, obviously to change your whole career path, start writing code, there must have been issues you thought that you could really help solve. What were some of the things you were hearing out in the community that you thought you could help with?
Well, before I went into the community and started doing more, product research and trying to understand the community a little bit, when I was working, we needed a better way to get content to the shop floor. I always used to say there was 2 sets of drawings. There was the drawings that we would create, and then the shop floor would take those drawings, mark them up, hide them in their back, hide them somewhere that wouldn't show us. And they had all these extra stuff, and they never communicated that back. And it was not a great system. And then we had a major issue with supplier access. And I think companies to this day have that issue. How do we get access to our suppliers? So then so that was kind of the idea, okay, how can we solve this? What can we do? And of course, at that point, the iPhone had been out for a little bit, and I think the iPad was coming, or was already, it was right around that time frame. And of course, the cloud was exploding, but everybody was still hesitant with the cloud. And I just felt like the solution for shop floor access, supplier access, single source of truth, all those kinds of things has got to be the cloud. It's got to be multi-platform. It's got to be easy to access. And so that was the first thing. And then when I went out into the community and, dove into the SolidWorks community, because that was obviously the gorilla, the big bad community that we were all part of.
Yeah.
And got to know people in that. And the very first thing I heard was, okay, that sounds like a great idea, but we have all this in PDM. How do we get it into whatever you end up building, which became flatter files is what we call it. Most people know me as the flatter files guy. We've got the user group guy. We've got the when they see me, oh, that's the flatter files guy. They forget my name. And so it became flatter files. But how do we connect this to PDM? And to be honest, that was the key to make flatter files successful. The connection to your data management system, because there's lots of ways to give shop floor access via OneDrive or SharePoint or whatever you want to do. But none of those connect with your CAD software, with your PDM system. And the PDM system is the key thing. So how can we leverage the investment you've made in PDM, whatever PDM system it is? And we want to be agnostic. We want to support all the PDM systems, all the CAD systems, et cetera. But how do we leverage the significant investment you've made in PDM and then use that to drive your supplier and shop floor access? And that's what's driven the success of flatter files. That integration.
Yeah, it's really interesting because people invest in a PDM system and then they're like, well, how do we get people into it now? And they'll try, but it's really difficult to let people in through the VPN, and everybody has to be on the same version. It just never really ends up working.
And fundamentally, software is good at what it is designed to do. Onshape, SolidWorks, Inventor, Fusion, all of them, they are designed to create content. That's what they're designed for. I call them content creation tools. Word, Excel, PowerPoint, they're all content creation tools. Data management system, it's to manage that content creation. Flatter files is designed for content distribution. How are we going to distribute the resulting controlled documentation, whether it's drawings or documents, et cetera, to the end user? And it is designed from the ground up. What do those users need? Whereas the content creation tools are designed from the ground up. What does the engineer, the designer, what do they need? And it's a different tool set. And there's some crossover. Absolutely. You can do lots of things that you can do in flatter files. You can do that directly in the CAD software. But fundamentally, that user, when they look at that CAD software, they're overwhelmed. They look at flatter files, they're at home. They're like, yes, this makes sense. It's only what I need. It gives me that functionality.
Yeah, the moment you share somebody into a big PDM or PLM and you try to share it like that, it's sometimes a little much.
It's overwhelming. It's things that we take for granted, simple things. What's the difference from a legacy file standpoint between a drawing file and a model file? Like they're like, I just want the part number. I just want, what do I need to make the part? And flatter files completely simplified all that. It kind of, you guys are working on the leading edge of, let's remove the idea of a file, right? We don't have files anymore. Flatter files does that for legacy file systems as well. It puts everything together and makes it very easy. I can show it later how you see the item as a part number, and you've got the 2D drawing, the 3D model, whatever it is, all as that single item.
Right.
Point of reference.
Yeah, obviously Onshape, on the cutting edge of trying to share and collaborate with each other, but people still want to have a discrete object that they can use in other systems. We'll see a little bit in the demo today, but there's still many, many reasons why you'd want to share things beyond the Onshape standard way of sharing, especially when you're in a hybrid environment as well.
Absolutely. And that's been one of our target focuses as we learn about the Onshape community and we become part of it. We've wanted to add support for Onshape for a long time. And as the Onshape product has matured, we've been able to find our pathway into that. Our first two customers that are relatively large customers, they're using a multi-CAD system. They've got departments using legacy CAD and they've got departments using Onshape, and on flatter files, it all looks the same. And so their suppliers, their production team, they can't tell the difference. They log in, they search for a part number, an item number, a document number, whatever it may be. And they see the drawing, they see the model, they see the content, whatever it happens to be that they need to be given access to, they have access to it.
Yeah, it's a great point, especially during transitions, and it doesn't, you don't change CAD systems overnight typically. Yeah.
No, I mean, if you've got, a typical PDM user from a legacy system has, they may have 100,000 files. You're not going to just migrate that over. That's so expensive, so costly. And our solution for those customers is say, hey, we work with those systems. Let's process them, auto create your PDFs from all of that content, make it accessible in Flatter files, auto create step files, DXF files, anything you need, make it content accessible. And then as you start to use Onshape, that new Onshape revisions, all that new content there will show up right beside it, the exact same place. And your users don't know the difference. And in a year, 2 years, 3 years, your content will go from 95% of that system to maybe 80, 90% of the new system. And you just slowly move it over on an as needed basis versus trying to migrate it all on day one. Anybody that's done a large migration knows how costly and difficult it is to get it right.
Yeah.
And so we'd like to provide those capabilities. But of course, if you simply are only an Onshape user, that's fine as well. It'll work with it.
Exactly. So speaking of Onshape, what was it like connecting to Onshape? Like, you were a developer of stuff that, installed kind of software, and now you're connecting to a cloud stack here, and it's a kind of a different beast. So maybe you could share a little bit on that or something else.
Yeah, absolutely. I've written every line of code of Flutter files from the beginning. So I've been through a whole bunch of different stuff. I work with. So for me, it wasn't like the fact it's a REST API. I've worked with lots of REST APIs. We send auto text messages and auto emails, and we use REST APIs for do all of that kind of stuff. So pretty straightforward from that standpoint. So far, what I'm finding though is the stability is incredible in the sense that in legacy CAD systems, when I'm controlling a CAD system using the old COM interface, if your audience knows anything about programming, maybe you've heard of that.
Yeah.
It is easy to get working and impossible to get perfect in the sense that there's just constant bugs. I mean, 10 years into this, almost 12 years into this, 11 and a half. It's just a constant year to year of trying to troubleshoot COM interface problems. So far, once it works, I almost want to, knock on wood here. But I've been really, really impressed with the stability of when I ask for a PDF programmatically for a revision of a drawing, or I ask for a step file from a model and I tell it to send that to Flatter files, it's there and it's correct. And it's been really, really impressive. Now, that being said, the negative is definitely still maturity. It needs, it's still, there's missing pieces. And I've worked with, the support group there to add missing API support things that we needed to be able to do what we needed. And, I've got an open item right now that I'm anxious to get resolved. I think it's supposed to get released this next week. So excited for that. We'll be able to support some additional functionality with regard to export of BOM tables, et cetera. So, we're constantly trying to push the envelope of what's possible with the API, and the response has been great as far as getting those things added. You always want it to be faster. And then the documentation, I think, in the exact same thing can be said about Flatter files. You can never have enough quality documentation. People that create documentation don't get paid enough. Mm-hmm. It's the most challenging part for me. And when I go to, anytime I look at a new API, a new system, it's always, documentation. You can never have enough of it.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. That's the first thing, most people start rifling through, and, it has to be technically correct. It has to be easy to read.
Well, and with a product like Flatter files for the last 10 years and with Onshape for however many years, we are constantly evolving cloud-based products where we want to be able to release new versions every month, every week, we don't want to release once a year. That doesn't work for our customers. What's one of the advantages of being cloud-based? That's great, but that means you have to constantly update the documentation. There was some capabilities in the API that I didn't know existed because it wasn't in the documentation. And I finally was able to get to the right person within Onshape that pointed me in the right direction. It's like, oh, you can do that. Oh, that solves it. Like, oh, this is fantastic. That's nowhere in the documentation, that's always the case. The same way with regard to Flatter files. There's missing stuff that you're just constantly trying to update and keep it going.
Totally. Mm-hmm. What are some of the most popular reasons people will use Flatter Files? Like maybe you can give us a day in a life of how somebody might use it.
Well, I think, big picture, it's to provide a single portal to all of their content that's controlled, whether or not it's, drawings, documents, et cetera. That single portal where viewers can log in and always know that they have access to the latest revision. So that's the big picture. But the details are why they typically, send the PO and they become a customer, et cetera. They sign up, et cetera. The detail is we need PDFs auto-created and we need them all in one place. And we need to be able to give easy access to them. Oh, and we really, really, really need DXFs of just our sheet metal parts. Is there any way you can do that? Oh, and can you make sure it hides the bin lines, or can you make sure it shows it? It can, that little detail around auto-creating DXFs or auto-creating step files and packaging it all together with the PDF in a single item. Like those are the little details that convert someone that's, thinking about it, but could I write my own system to maybe put it on OneDrive or whatever it may be versus, oh, there's a commercial solution that does all of that. And it'll allow me to create a DXF of just my sheet metal parts, and it may, so on and so forth. It's all those.
That totally makes sense to me now. Like this ability to, you could totally build something like this yourself and host it yourself and do all the things and make it work exactly the way you want it to work today. But why would you if you can just?
Well, for companies, I'll push back a little bit on that because I do hear that a lot, and that's true. I actually have given at SolidWorks World, I have given talks about how to build a batch processor to auto-create PDFs.
Sure.
Because it's simple. Like that's not what Flatter Files is about. It's about so much more than that. I will tell you though, I have replaced so many internal companies' solutions for this. That's when I knew Flatter Files was going to be a success. To whatever degree we call it a success. We're a very small company. I like being small. There's advantages to that. But to consider the reason I have not had to go get a real job and able to continue to do this, which has been so great for the last over a decade now, is because early on I realized not only did I think there was a need for that, there was clearly a need because I replaced a whole bunch of internal solutions over the years. And if there's an internal solution for it, that means there was a pain point. There was a clear business pain point. They spent a lot of money hiring a developer or putting a team of developers on it, finding a solution. And then there was a commercial product that was pennies on the dollar in comparison. And, we were able to replace it and then kind of go forward from that because it's cheaper to have Flatter Files as a commercial product than to maintain your existing system if you've developed it internally.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe this is the time to show off a little bit.
Yeah, we can do that. Let's do that. I'm all for that. Let's see.
It's pretty easy to share the screen.
Yeah, takes just a second here. And then
there we are. And I will move it over there so we can see it a little better.
All right. So can you see it here?
Yes, absolutely. I see a nice kind of iTunes looking interface.
I love the fact that you said that. So remember, I'm of an age where iTunes was how we managed our MP3 files. MP3 files, if you're younger, are what we used to listen to music after CDs, and on and on and on. But yes, absolutely, it was an iTunes inspired interface, and I'm proud of that. That was
it's cool.
It was it has worked better than I thought it would, and it has not changed since the beginning. The general layout here, it's amazing when you show someone this the first time. One of the things that they love the most is this preview image idea here on the right hand side. If you notice, as I select,
it's by course,
yeah. And so let's say I scroll down here and I select that item right there. Boom! It shows the preview image instantly. And this is just a thumbnail. You would never design the part off of that or anything like that. But it instantly provides that interface of being able to see, generally speaking, if you found the right item. So if you do a search for something, 10 or 20 items come back. Am I in the right ballpark? And it allows you to do that. Once you see the item that you want to view, you select it right here and then just double click on it. Let's find a good item right here. Let's do this right here. So this is an item on Flatter Files. You'll notice it doesn't say .pdf or say, hey, this is a PDF, but that's what it is. It's an auto-created PDF from a tab of a drawing in an Onshape document. So each drawing tab corresponds to an item on Flatter Files. If you would like, you can also have it create an item for an assembly tab or a part studio tab. But fundamentally, most of our customers will have it just point to the drawing tabs. And then Flatter Files, will recognize that this is a drawing that references a model. It will go locate that model tab in the document and auto create your step file, your DXF if needed, your Parasolid, whatever you would like it to include, and it packages it all together as this single item. So this particular item contains a PDF and a step file. If it was a sheet metal part, and I can go find one here just a second. Let's see. Sorry, I thought I hit the X. Let's see. This item right here is a sheet metal part. And when I go to view this item, you can see it displays the drawing just as you would expect.
Yeah.
And then you click the download button and you could see you could download the corresponding DXF that goes along with that. And of course, there's ways to bulk download. There's ways to prevent people from downloading. Some of my customers have gone fully digital where they don't allow their users to download or print anything. They can only access it either in this user interface on a browser or in our mobile applications on their phone, their iPad, their Android tablets, et cetera, all of that. So
sounds very familiar, the way we like to do it on Onshape as well.
Exactly. We encourage full digital workflows, but not required. Required.
I mean, everybody has their own unique situations. So.
Absolutely. No, I actually gave a demo to an Onshape customer this morning, and his pain point is the ability to have a collection of PDFs at his fingertips and being able to just select a bunch of items and download the PDFs in 2 clicks. I showed him this right here. So I selected this is a list of Onshape items that I've pulled up here for demo purposes. You select them. Maybe you want to select this particular item as well. You right click, say download PDF, and you're going to get a PDF of every single one of those files. Wow. And these correspond to different documents, different drawings within those documents, different revisions, et cetera. You can see what release name it is, what revision value it is. It's all listed right there. That was their pain point. That simple capability, when he saw this is exactly what they were looking for. Yeah. And how does the Onshape data get here? So we have the Flatter Files uploader application that gets installed onto a machine. So yes, we're going to connect 2 cloud systems via an uploader desktop application.
But this is something an admin would do.
Yes. It's a one machine type deal, and it could be run in a virtual machine. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Of course, for years, for almost a decade, we've been integrating with these legacy CAD systems where it just ran right alongside the PDM server infrastructure. You install it right there, straightforward. We decided for our integration with Onshape to leverage all of that investment because we have incredible capabilities within this uploader application. We can stamp almost anything you want on the drawing, right? So when we pull the PDF from Onshape, if you want to add a property stamp that's based on that last release, but you don't want to include it on the actual drawing, you want us to stamp it on the drawing, we can do that. If you want to stamp a barcode onto that drawing, you can do that. If you want to have us save that PDF into a OneDrive location, you can do that with the uploader. And I can go on and on and on. So we're able to leverage 10 years worth of development into this desktop application that's very lightweight. I can show it right here on the screen. It's just this small little window. It's got all kinds of tools. I don't want to go into the details of it because this is for an admin, right? This is for your CAD admin, your person that's in charge of integrating everything. They're going to run that. It's going to run on its own. It's going to constantly, as new revisions show up in Onshape, you'll log into Flatter Files. They will be there. You can set up email notifications. Specific users can get notified of when a new revision has occurred in Onshape, and then they'll have access to it on Flatter Files. Yeah,
this is really great. It really does answer a lot of questions a lot of people have. When they're looking in the Onshape, they love it. And then there are a few things that might be a bridge too far for them. Like, the total digital workflow of the way, like the Google Docs style way of sharing. And, some people, they need to integrate with business processes that they have and have had for a long time. And they can't just flip the table and be like, okay, we're going to change everything. And that is probably a recipe for disaster. If you think about it, because it'll probably fail.
It couldn't be more true. And in 2011, when Flatter Files started, there wasn't going to be an ability to print, right? And now, just so you know, just because it's so related to that, we have incredible batch printing capabilities. So if I right click multiple items and then click print, it gives me this dialogue that allows me to change the order. It allows me to go browse through a different library of content and select additional items and drag and drop into this batch print dialogue and add items to it and like build this whole thing. And you're like, why would you do that? Because I mean, customers love this capability because when they go to the printer, the item's in the correct order. It's exactly what they need. And I swear in 2011, when I first started Flatter Files, there was not going to be printing, right? It was going to be all digital. And now we built this entire suite around it because you have to support what your customers need. And they needed the ability to print very effectively. And batch print stamps. We talked about barcode stamps, et cetera, from the uploader side. We can do real-time print stamps to where when the user prints it, it puts who printed it, the date, any property information you want right there in real time as they print it, right as it goes toward the printer.
Yeah,
so
that's advanced functionality. That's not stuff you'd find in a PDM system admin tool. It's always like custom.
Exactly. So basically for the last 10 years, every PDM admin has that laundry list of things that they want from a distribution standpoint. And we've slowly been incorporating all of those into Flatter Files. And the CAD admins of this CAD community are really who developed Flatter Files from a functionality standpoint. I had the big picture idea and like just the general concept. And then we went out into the community. We listened to our early customers. I'll never forget our very first customer. I think it was February 2012, first paying customer. In 2 days of them using it, I realized we weren't even halfway to being where they needed. I spent the next 9 months, I believe, 100% focused on adding functionality based on their feedback. And they're still a customer to this day. I'm really proud of that fact.
That's great. That's great. Well, it's pretty easy to find the application. Just go to the App Store and Onshape, and you can find it there. Any other information that we should share with everybody? Yeah, we got your website here, right? So flatterfiles.com. I think that's right.
Yeah.
But it's really, really amazing to have this. Like, I am so excited, as I mentioned before. Have you had a chance to use a little bit of you're running Flatter Files. Do you still CAD at all?
Not much. I was actually, when I was doing the demo this morning and even just now looking at my demo files for the Onshape content, I'm like, boy, I've got to develop some better models. I have some contacts within Onshape on the sales side, and they've given me some access to some content, and I've got to figure out how to get. I've got to get better content into my demo account because I'm not a very good CAD user. I did it a whole lot for a little while, and then it's just been so long. And when I come across a new platform like Onshape, it's just, all right, what's the basics? Where's the API? Because it's all about the API. And getting that integration done. For me, it was understanding, the Onshape's a little different than the legacy CAD systems by design, and understanding the whole document tab item relationship. Okay, how do I make that fit within the Flatter Files model? And so far, our customers have been really, really happy with the integration, the way it works.
Fantastic. Richard.
Great stuff. I mean, I'm just sitting here absorbing all of this. It's just amazing what you've created here, Chris. And what you continue to create and continue, I love it when somebody says that it's their customers that are driving what's happening with the product, because that's how Onshape works. And that's kind of, I've worked for companies that have had that philosophy most of my career, and you really enjoy working for a company like that. So I'm glad to see that. The other thing I want to thank you for is calling us content creators, because we look back now 20 or 25 years ago when I was creating content, nobody knew what a content creator was. That wasn't a term. So we were content creators before it was a thing.
Absolutely. That was a big thing for me, was understanding where Flatter Files fits early on. It's like, okay, all this content creation, what about content distribution? I tried to kind of name that and make that a thing when I discuss it in the industry is, have you thought about content distribution? Because I always say from the very beginning, when you decide whatever platform you choose to go with from a data management standpoint, if you go full in on the Onshape mechanism, from the beginning, let's think about, how do we plan to integrate this from a distribution standpoint? How are we going to make this accessible? And there's multiple ways to do that. And there's not necessarily a right or wrong way, But from the Flatterfall's perspective, we tried to really make it very clear that it's fully integrated with your content creations tools. And we're going to provide all the advanced functionality that you could ever dream of. And if it's missing, we'll add it. That's been our philosophy from day one.
And the earlier they get started thinking about those kinds of things, the better off they're going to be in the long run. Because once you go down the wrong path, it's really hard to switch.
Absolutely. That's absolutely correct.
Yep. Cool.
That's right.
Well, we have Onshape Live coming up in a couple of,
next week.
Next
week. Yes, that's right. March 1st here in the US, March 2nd over in Europe. We've got some great things going on. I mean, obviously we'll get the keynotes from John Herstick and Dave Katzman. The sneak peek, which was just huge last year. That was back. We've got a new sneak peek presenter this year, and that's Vajrang. And I'm sure he'll do a great job. I know he's really excited. There's a LinkedIn video out there where he's talking about his shot at this and how happy he is to be doing that. There are 12 different sessions that you can sign up for. Some really great ones. Lots of talk about education. Lots of talk about agile product development. And then also some user presentations that I'm looking forward to. Vince Haley from Design Inspiration is going to be doing a session. Nicole Phillips from Trek, and that should be a pretty interesting conversation as well. And then our, everybody's favorite wonder kid, Alma Smidgens, is going to be one of the presenters too. So you don't want to miss his presentations at all. So
reigning world champion of too tall Toby Schnarr speed modeling competition.
Yep.
Yes.
And it all happens at onshapelive.com. You can get over there and you can register right now. Everything's free. It's about 5.5 hours on a Wednesday. Should be a pretty good time. I'm looking forward to it.
It's going to be the best Wednesday you've ever had.
Yeah. I agree.
Or Thursday if you're in Europe. Yeah, I'm really excited. I'm presenting with Vince Haley, and we've designed here's a little sneak peek for yourself. VR controller in Onshape with all sorts of boundary surfaces and lots of really cool new surfacing tools that have come out recently. So
and I've seen the model and I know it's good. So
yes.
Very good.
What else do we have, Richard?
There's some good stuff going on with our user group network as well. We've got 2 new groups that are going to be forming here pretty soon, pretty specific groups. We've got the Educators Onshape User Group, which is going to be focused really on educators and how they approach the teaching of Onshape, teaching of design and technology in schools. And that's going to be led by Ed Charlwood. He's over in the UK. He is an educator over there, been a long-time Onshape user, and has been supporting the Onshape User Group for a long time now. So it's great to see that he's going to put something like this together for the educators. And then I'm really excited to announce the Student Onshape User Group. And this will be a group that's focused on students. They'll meet quarterly, unless the group decides they want to meet a little bit more regularly. But the person that we found that is going to head up that group, the name will sound familiar. It's Alnis's little brother, Imant Smidgens, is going to be running that group. And he and I have had some great email conversations about what we're going to do with that group and what he's going to do and some of his thoughts and ideas. And that should turn out really well. So look for those to come up. Those meetings are going to be happening. Both the student and the educators meeting will be happening late in March. So keep an eye on our user group network. And there you go. You can get the URL there. We'll also put it in the show notes for you. So some exciting stuff happening in the user group network. And then before we go, I was fishing around this morning and got a hold of our good friend Nacho. I said, Nacho, I need a model of the week for today's podcast. And of course, so he went ahead and he jumped on that. So we've got a great model of the week we can show. So let's go ahead and add that here. And it is this really cool boat. Yep. This is a really nice model here. Not finely detailed, but what I would call highly detailed. So you can see there's some things like fasteners that aren't in here, but overall, this is just a beautifully built model. The renders, I look at these and I'm looking at a real boat here. And you can see he's done a really nice job with some of these renders. I love the texture on the floor there, how that came out.
Yeah.
All of the,
put it in the water. We're in dry dock now.
Yep. The hardware. Well, I searched through the model here. I didn't find one in the water, but he does have some water set up. So maybe we'll see that soon.
All right. It looks like that's where he was thinking. All right.
Yep. So maybe we'll see that soon in this model.
Yeah.
Like I say, just a really nice model. You can see that that the hull is done here in a parts studio, and he did use a lot of CAD imports. And I don't. There's no problem with that. CAD imports. Why create something that's already created?
Yeah, I mean, a Mercury engine or something like that.
Exactly. Yeah, even things. Yep, even things like grommets and certain types of fittings and what have you. So
hardware. Yeah.
Yep. So this is Cole Durbin from he's actually works at Formlabs, Onshape user that works at Formlabs. So
okay.
Yep. Thanks for creating this, Cole, and we sure enjoyed using it as our model of the week, and we'll put that link as well into the show note. That's our model of the week.
All right. It's nice to see the boat show is actually happening was just happening in Boston, the convention center where LiveWorks is happening in May. And it's nice to see that Wellfleet local Cape Cod style name. So yeah, it's nice to see, getting me ready for spring here. I'm so ready for it out there right now.
Here in Las Vegas, and when I moved out here, I mean, I knew what the weather was kind of, but I really didn't expect it to be this cold in the winter. And I've been anxious, to get out and do some camping. I got myself into camping the last couple of years. I really enjoy it, but the nights have just been so cold that it's really, it's still, and I keep looking 2 weeks out, the 10 to 14 day forecast. And I'm just looking for that magic number, 50 degrees overnight. And I think we'll be okay. But it keeps pushing out and pushing out. We're due for a big winter storm here over the next couple of days. So,
yikes.
It'll head that way eventually. So, Well, Chris, it's been great talking to you. Great seeing you again. I'm sure that we'll run into each other one way or another, whether it's virtually like this or in person sometime. It's a great product you got there. Great for Onshape users. Everybody go take a look at it if this is something that you need. It's well thought out, well done, and will certainly help your processes.
I really appreciate that. And you were a big part of the success of Flat Earth Files from an early part, as far as just helping me get into the community. And so I owe you big time on that. So thanks so much.
I appreciate that as well. Mike, it's always great to be here with you, and we'll look forward to our next episode. What do we got going on in the next episode? I kind of forget.
I think there's a little bit of a takeover planned.
I think there might be. I think everybody's going to be really excited about our next episode. So
yes.
Make sure you hit the like button for us, hit the subscribe so that you're always notified of new episodes, and also the live stream. I suspect there will be a live stream very soon as well. So
there will most likely be a live stream very shortly.
So once again, Chris, thank you. Mike, always great.
All right. See y'all later.
Thanks again, everybody. Thanks.